I'm brainwashing myself to be successful, and I know the word brainwashing sounds super dramatic, but hear me out. I realized very quickly that money isn't how much you have in the bank, it's about your mindset. And psychologists actually believe that by the age of 7, you have already formed your beliefs about money. So think about it. At 7, you already have the financial blueprint of how you perceive wealth, success, and possibility. And as someone who became a doctor at the age of 22, earning £15 an hour, I realized very quickly that if I wanted to be successful, I needed to change my psychology around money as well as invest. And that's why I've created this channel. And in today's video, I'm going to break down exactly how I've been able to rewire my brain for success as someone who is now on track to retire early through investing. You can imagine how disastrous this can be if you've been brought up in an environment where people have a negative attitude towards money and have negative beliefs around money. All of that stuff can impact you and actually stop you from being successful. And as someone who experienced this, it was really important for me to undo and move from a place of scarcity to a place of abundance. So let's start here. Why do we believe what we believe about money? Well, there is an area in psychology known as the money scripts. And Dr. Brad Kay found that subconsciously, most adults fall into one of the 4 categories. The first category is money avoidant. These people tend to think that money is bad or that rich people are greedy. The second category is money worship. These individuals believe that money will solve all of their problems. The third category is money status, and these individuals believe how much they earn is equal to their self-worth. So if they earn very little, they see themselves as very little in society. Whereas if they're earning a lot, then they see themselves as important members of society and might have a high ego as a result. And the last category is money vigilant. And these individuals save everything, spend nothing, because they really prioritize their financial safety. And here's the thing. Your money script doesn't come from what you're taught, it comes from what you saw. So if growing up you saw your parents arguing about money or saying things like we don't have enough money, or you associated financial success with other people and never felt something like that could happen to you, or you might not have seen successful people who look like you or who grew up where you grew up, all of those things affect how you perceive money. And that becomes your emotional baseline. It actually becomes the floor and ceiling of what you think is normal when it comes to money. And I'm gonna call myself out and be super honest with you guys. I really love cars, and growing up, I thought that most people spent £5,000 on a car, maybe £10,000 if they were feeling fancy. And I remember coming across Porsche, which is one of my favorite car brands, and I was like, oh my goodness, people spend £100,000 on a car. Like, they have £100,000 in their savings account that they're gonna spend on a car. My brain at the time could not comprehend that. And that's exactly how mindset ceilings work. If you can't imagine owning something, your brain won't come up with a solution on how to get you there. Fast forward, I've been in a Porsche, I've driven a Porsche, I absolutely love Porsche. And this is why the first step to becoming wealthy isn't a strategy, it's actually a mindset reset. Because the truth of the matter is, you can't build a supercar with the blueprint of a bicycle. So here's how I started reprogramming my brain, and it wasn't with magic, it actually was with science. Cognitive behavioural therapy has this concept known as cognitive restructuring. This is basically when, if you can't think your way out of your old beliefs, you need to prove them wrong by providing your brain with new evidence. So I started feeding myself with new evidence. I listened to podcasts of people who were super successful. A podcast that I really loved back then was A Diary of a CEO, which is really big now. And Stephen Bartlett would interview founders who were doing crazy things in their field. I would read books by founders and entrepreneurs who created businesses that were worth billions of dollars. And a few of my favorite books include Shoe Dog, the book by the founder of Walmart, Netflix. I read books by self-made millionaires, and I also started talking about money in a healthy manner. And I noticed that the more I talked about money in a healthy manner, the more I was surrounded by people who had a very similar mindset towards money. And in having healthy conversations about money, my brain started to deem this as normal. And this is actually called neuroplasticity. It's when the brain rewires itself based on what you repeatedly think and experience. And the reason why repetition is so important in neuroplasticity is when you repeat an activity, the neural connections needed for that activity become activated again and again. The repeated repetition causes the pathway to be stronger and more efficient, creating a well-known pathway in your brain. So, in short, what you feed your brain becomes your reality, which is why the book Think and Grow Rich emphasizes so much about what you tell yourself when it comes to money and being successful. So in essence, you could argue that actually I am brainwashing myself because I am repeatedly doing activities to rewire how my brain perceives money. And I have to do this because unfortunately we live in a world where you're brainwashed to be small and to not think big. So you have to intentionally do the opposite in order to be the successful person that you are capable of being. In the process of continuously rewiring my brain, I've also had to overcome fear and teaching myself to take calculated risk. And what I find so interesting is one of the reasons why people aren't successful isn't because they're not intelligent, it's actually because of fear. The fear of being seen as corny, the fear of losing money, the fear of failing in public, the fear of judgment from those around them. And the crazy thing is, fear is your brain trying to keep you safe. Fear is actually a protective prediction based on your past patterns. It's actually your brain trying to keep you safe. And rather than ignoring fear, you just need to reprogram how you perceive it. And the best way to reprogram it is by introducing, like we said, new evidence and new experiences. So let's say you wanted to start investing. Rather than investing £10,000, you can start off with £10. £10,000 is nerve-inducing, but not as nerve-inducing as £10 might be. And once you do that, you'll realize that actually, I was okay. I survived this, and that's a positive note that your brain has. The same thing with a business idea. You can start off with a business idea as a side hustle. You can do it. Again, new information that you're giving to your brain. If you want to build a new network, you can reach out to mentors and coaches who you find really inspiring. And in sending your first cold lead, you'll realize, oh my goodness, again, I did this. It wasn't as bad. It's really important that you do things that make you uncomfortable because that means you're growing. You cannot get to a new level with the same mindset that you had 2 levels before. Otherwise, you won't be able to sustain where you have. Growth and feeling uncomfortable can sometimes be synonymous. The next thing I've done is I've stopped chasing money. And I know that sounds counterproductive because this whole video is about how to brainwash yourself for success. But the truth of the matter is, the thing that you chase will run away from you. So rather than chasing money, you need to chase value. When I studied the people in this world who are super successful, they never chased money, they made themselves individuals of value. And you're probably thinking, well, how do I make myself valuable? You make yourself valuable by being a problem solver. If you think of Ali Abdaal, really popular YouTuber, he is super valuable because he has taught us how to be productive. If we think of entrepreneurs like Grace Beverly, Crept from Nala's Baby, all of these individuals are key examples of people who have solved problems that have mattered to other people. And so being successful is easy if you focus on being someone that solves problems. So I actually started asking myself these questions. What skills, knowledge, experiences do I have that can genuinely help people? And I also asked myself, how can I continue being valuable? The truth of the matter is, value fluctuates. It doesn't stay static. You can be valuable today and not valuable tomorrow if you don't continuously invest in yourself. If you are someone who invests in their knowledge, you will always have new skills. You'll always have new ideas. You'll always have a new network. And so your value will always compound. So as you watch this video, I want you to think about how you can serve more in your sphere of influence. Because the truth of the matter is, when you focus on value and serving, you actually start to contribute more, and that's when opportunities find you. People like being around individuals who help solve their problem, who they can bounce ideas off, who they're motivated by. And by being someone who is of value, you will automatically attract wealth. And the last thing that I'm doing to brainwash myself is taking charge of my environment. You've probably heard the this quote which says that you are the average of the 5 people that you spend most of your time with. But it's actually a lot deeper than that. Neuroscience actually tells us that we mimic the beliefs, habits, thoughts of the people around us, and it's a phenomenon known as emotional contagion, and that's when your brain subconsciously syncs with the people that you're around. So the truth of the matter is, if you're surrounded by fear, doubt, worry, you'll mimic that. If you're surrounded by go-getters, people who are audacious, people who are bold, you will mimic that, and your thought, feelings, beliefs will also mimic that too. So over the years, I've been really mindful about my environment. I have a community of people who are as audacious and as bold as me, and it's great. It's great to have an idea and be able to have a conversation with someone who will 10x it, rather than tell you that your idea is a bad idea or it's unrealistic, because the truth of the matter is, we are all sitting in something that once upon a time was unrealistic. Before planes existed, the idea of something flying in the air and getting someone from point A to point B was unrealistic, but I think it was the Walter brothers who were willing to go above societal and scientific norms at the time to create what we now live in as basic means of travel. So do a friendship audit. You need friends and people around you who elevate you, who pour into you, who inspire you, and who will speak life into your dreams on the days where you're feeling unmotivated. And if you can't find those people in public, find those people online, read their book, listen to their podcast, listen to their YouTube channel. Try and glean as much as you can with what you have available. One of the greatest gifts that we have is books. When you can't meet an amazing founder in person because they might not be in the same country as you, or they might have been born in a completely different time, you have access to their mind through reading their book. So don't count yourself out if you don't have the right community now. You can still get access to that knowledge, and you can still rewire and restructure your brain. And as you become a person of value and as you take bold steps, you will find that you will naturally attract those group of people anyway. So if you take one thing from this video, I want it to be this: you can rewire your mind, you can change your story, and when you do, everything else will shift and align. And remember, you don't need permission to do this. You don't need to wait for luck. You just need to start feeding yourself with a new narrative. So that brings me to the end of this video on how I'm brainwashing myself to be successful and how you can too. Let me know your thoughts in the comment. And if you haven't subscribed, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And I will see you in my next video. Bye.